No, we'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? And that is carried. Item 1.5, enhanced outdoor dining. Can I have a mover? Councillor Samagia, seconder. Councillor Law. Any discussion, councillors? Councillor Zagrafis.
Thank you very much, Mayor. We had a similar discussion last year on these matters just before, I think, the May or the April lockdown might have been, when we were looking forward to getting back to normal society. And then I think the next day we went into lockdown from memory. It might have been 2 days after. Nevertheless, we're here now, and what this report seeks to do is basically go back to pre-COVID Monash, and that is disassemble these outdoor dining structures, of which many of them are barricades. Some of them are no longer being used. Others are being used sporadically, and others are used more frequently. I think this report is overall very good, and it's reasonable for us to be considering it now before June later this year. And what we've seen since we came out of lockdown in November is things are picking up again, and the vibrancy is back, certainly in outdoor dining spaces that I've been to, whether it's in Oakley or Kingsway or other parts of Monash, which is great. However, things aren't back to normal just yet. And so I think that in considering this report, we need to also engage with our community, particularly our businesses, those that have these structures, those that have outdoor dining areas, whether it's Eden Mall, whether it's Kingsway or other parts of Monash, before we make long-lasting decisions. There are areas that these particular spaces and structures are working very, very well. There are others that are not working well. They're taking up car spaces, they're not practical. From my experience in Huntingdale, that's an example. Clayton, other examples. However, in Oakley, when I think of Chester Street and Portman Street particularly, I think they're working very well. And that's the feedback that I get from patrons, but also from business owners, and also from business owners that have no interest one way or the other in these structures, but are aware of the feedback locally. So I would hope that this council does consider the two structures that I've seen in Oakley that are working well, in Chester Street, outside number 20 Chester Street, and outside number 66 Portman Street. And maybe we can have that discussion in a few minutes around how we treat them moving forward, whether we want to have them permanently, whether we want to charge them particular fees, whether it's practical to do that, whether it's safe to do that. Hopefully we can discuss that in the next few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further contributions? Yep, Councillor Saris.
Thank you. May I rise tonight to inform Council that... Happy? Better? Thank you. Mayor, as I was saying, I rise to my feet tonight to inform Council that in its current form, I will not be supporting this report tonight for the reasons as follows. There is no doubt that the hardest hit out of this COVID nightmare over the last 2 years, and by no means out of the imagination are we out of this nightmare yet, has been small business owners. Irrespective of the shrapnel that's been thrown at them by other levels of government, many have gone to the wall, and those that have hung on are still hanging on for dear life. You only have to come into the city to see evidence of that. No sooner did we as a council 12 months ago extend the policy, as Councillor Zagrafis alluded to, we went into a lockdown. No sooner did we come out of that lockdown, we had Omicron. And the pandemic, or the virus, is still in the community, and it's in the community and it's raging. It's raging. How do we know it's raging? Because of the numbers. And the numbers aren't accurate because not everyone is getting tested. But there isn't a single day that doesn't go by that I haven't heard of a friend or someone close to me that hasn't come down with COVID and they're isolating again. So we're not out of the woods yet. What I would like to see is a way of which we can either extend this for another year. If there's no appetite for that, an amendment, and I'm happy to work with colleagues around the table tonight to find the words where we come back to this policy and look at how we can make it a more permanent outcome, one that isn't as draconian and as ugly as what we currently have, because let's all agree that those bollards and some of those barricades are hideous. And we've acknowledged that from day one, that we ran out quickly some 24 months ago to roll out the state government's agenda, and we did it in a way that I suppose if we had our time again, we'd do it in a more sort of appealing, aesthetic way. However, that said, we are where we are. So in its current form, I won't support it. I want to find a way where we can extend some of these footpaths to continue the trading. If there is, as I said, no appetite, and I don't think there is, to extend it for a further 12 months. Thank you.
Councillor Gruffers.
Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment which would... Do you want me to press the button or? Oh, is that better? Alrighty. So to add to points 5 and 6 the following words, with the exception of outside 66 Portman Street and 20 Chester Street, Oakley.
Do you have a seconder for that?
Sorry, can I hear it again, Ben?
Yep. So to add to points 5 and 6, with the exception of outside 66 Portman Street and 20 Chester Street, Oakley, and I've just emailed it to councillors. Basically, 20 Chester Street is vanilla and 66 Portman Street is outside Greco Street in Portman Street, but those are the actual addresses. So.
Yep, so that's seconded by Councillor Casares. Pretty sure I was the mover, so I'll just say it's not acceptable to me, so we debate it. Councillor Zgrafis, do you want to speak to your amendment?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, as I alluded to earlier, Mayor, these particular premises or these structures are unique to certainly all the ones in the Oakley, Clayton, Huntingdale area, because they are actually designed differently, built differently. The one in Portman Street, it's got a different kind of concrete barrier and it's got a wooden, like a patio type sort of on top. I don't know exactly what the word is. And the one in Chester Street is vastly different. It's more of a, veranda type, what's the word? But it certainly is larger, bigger, and it, to me would be very unreasonable to have these dismantled. Yes, officers were very clear that these were only to be temporary. I accept that. The business owners that I've spoken to in previous days accept that as well. However, at different times there were different discussions around maybe starting to charge businesses for this particular space in Monash. And what I'm proposing is, because of their unique nature, because they're utilised, we should look at keeping them but charging them so that ratepayers get the best value for money, and also the lack of space that we would lose in these two streets, car spaces, are recompensed or compensated as well. There are parking spaces at the multi-level car park, so we don't really have a massive problem from losing 15 or so spaces. But I do think the benefit that businesses and also patrons get, and these aren't all large businesses. The one in Portman Street, for example, incorporates 2 hospitality businesses, one of which is a much smaller cafe. But they are doing far better now, and we don't want to burden them, but also our residents who frequent these places, by being unreasonable. I'm saying 80% we demolish, we proceed in June. Those are the ones that are either not being used or they're not as, they don't look as nice, I guess, as what these ones do. These two are special in my view, and I think it would be prudent of us to at least take another look in the next few months, and it might be that we end up where we are currently on track to, but I still think there's a bit more work to be done. Thank you.
Councillor Casares.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, this is not the... sorry. Maybe. Okay. Look, thank you, Councillor Grass, for that. Look, this is by no means the ideal situation that I wanted to be finding myself into tonight. I understand why Councillor Grass has moved it, and I second it because I want to keep the debate going tonight and engage everyone around the table to partake, because the danger with what was being proposed by Councillor Zagrafos is that some traders may say, well, hang on, I want to be able to keep mine also, and you're playing me off against the dude down the road. So it's not the right model. But I do agree with Councillor Zagrafos that should we go down a path where we either extend this trading policy or we look at a model where we can enlarge our footpaths through some, what will be some, I don't know, a lot of money, I suppose, and then we may need to partner up with our traders to get those outcomes down the road. Certainly one thing should be echoed is that traders should have to pay for that space. We can no longer carry the costs, and the acting CEO might remind us of how much this already cost us, hundreds of thousands of dollars, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Peter? Yes? A nod? Yes, that's a nod. I don't think it's prudent that we should be carrying that, or our community should be carrying that cost. So whatever we land on, wherever we land on tonight, and I don't think we are going to land where Councillor Zagrafos and I want to land, but should we land there, it has to be on the basis that those traders have to pay for those spaces as they pay for the other tables and chairs outside their stores. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't know why the camera's not working, but we'll just continue. I'm not supportive of this amendment, and I don't, with no disrespect, because it's always council decisions, but the motions to waive outdoor dining fees and to extend the extended outdoor dining were all motions that I'd put up to this chamber. So there's no bigger champion of outdoor dining spaces in this chamber than me, and I'm not taking credit because it is a council decision. But I think the time has come that these be removed. Councillor Zagrafos said that officers had given traders plenty of notice. It's actually council that gave traders plenty of notice. We originally resolved to remove these by June 30 last year. It was extended, and we're lucky that we did that given the lockdowns that came its way. But I think they've served their purpose. I have plenty of times in this chamber championed the extended outdoor dining, and I know that council is now looking at designs in Portman Street between Eaton Mall and the station to do proper curb and channel extensions to remove some car parking there and extend the outdoor dining properly. And I think that's what we should do everywhere. I think that's something that we should look into. And I think what we need to do now is remove the temporary structures and then have a discussion with our community, our traders, about extending the outdoor dining areas and where that might be appropriate and how we go about doing that. And I don't think it should be just in Oakley, it should be in other areas as well, where Mount Waverley, Pinewood, Glen Waverley, wherever that might be suited, and not just in one section. The reason I don't support this amendment per se is because I don't think we can single out two different businesses and say, well, everyone has to remove their outdoor dining except for these two. I just think that creates an uneven playing field, and it's certainly not fair on the other traders. The other thing that's missing in this amendment is, and Councillor Zagrafos sort of alluded to it in his contribution, is that if we were going to go down this path, we would need to charge those two traders for utilising that public outdoor space, but there's nothing in this amendment that does that. So it would effectively mean that they would be able to use those temporary outdoor dining spaces for free. So I certainly support extended outdoor dining. I'm a big champion of that, but I think we need to do it properly rather than just having temporary structures up all around the city. And I think we need to council to address it and approach it in a holistic way and look at how we can design these spaces properly. And that will be expensive for us. And it may be in the millions of dollars. We know that the Portman Street extension is around about 1.2, and if we do it properly, we're up to 1.8 with Bluestone. And it's going to be expensive. But if we're going to go down the path, we need to design our cities properly, not just make band-aid solutions that look terrible and don't last properly and don't have the infrastructure behind them. So I won't be supporting the amendment, but very, very supportive of what it's trying to achieve. Councillor Little, I think you had your hand up before. Did you want to make a contribution? No? Yeah, Councillor Lake, have you...
No, I was just going to make some similar points to you, Mayor, not exactly the same, but certainly I don't support the amendment for the same reasons that you've identified, so I don't need to say anything further.
Was there anyone further on the amendment? Put that to the vote then. All those in favour of the amendment? And that is lost. That will return us to the substantive motion. Is there any discussion on the substantive motion? No? Put that... No, so I'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? And that is carried.
I'll just ask for a division, please.
Yeah, division. Sorry, division on the substantive motion. All those in favour? Councillor Little, Councillor McCluskey, Councillor Smargie and myself, Councillor Law, Councillor Lake, Councillor Fergus, Councillor De Silva. Those against? Councillor Zagrafis and Councillor Kosaris. Yeah.